Hello, everyone. This is Criminal Profiler Pat Brown, and this is Patron Hangout number 169. It is the day before Thanksgiving, and that's why I'm not doing it tomorrow, because it's the day before Thanksgiving, and I want to enjoy my Thanksgiving and the weekend following that. So thank you for being here, everybody who is in the chat room. And while I'm saying hello to the people in the chat room, do feel free to join the chat by clicking on the link below for Patreon. It's $5 a month. It's two lives a week, one on the weekend, which is the case show, and one during the week, which is like this hangout. You don't have to do that. You can just subscribe to the channel. Everything is available to the public because I want people to learn, and this is an educational channel. So please do subscribe, like the video, and check my playlists, which sometimes people forget to do. Okay, that was a quick introduction. Hello. wait a minute. I got to check out this one here. Melissa says, "Hey, Pat, Gus, my husband, is insistent I tell you, what's up, Pat?" From him. Well, hi, Gus. So there it is. Do you know that is the name of one of our dogs? But, you know, funny story. Speaking of that, so I got this pig when my children were little, this little pot-belly pig that turned into 300 pounds and lived for 20 years and became famous. But when I got the pig, it was a very, well, pot-belly pigs aren't the most pretty animals, shall we say. And I wanted to give her the prettiest name ever. So I thought about the fairy tales, and for some reason I thought Gwendolyn was such a beautiful name, Gwendolyn. So I named her Gwendolyn. And then later on, I realized that was the name of my niece. And so maybe it wasn't such a bright thing to do. So anyway, later on, my sister Cal, the mother of my niece, Gwendolyn, who we always called Gwen, so I never really thought about it. She then named her new dog Jenny, which is the name of my daughter. So I'm not sure that was getting me back, or she just loved the name Jenny. But, you know, it's always fun. Hi, Lex. Lex has just rolled in. Oh, I made his night. Oh, he's very simple. I think you could probably make his night more than I could. But anyway, okay, let me see a couple things here. Now it's a little quieter. If you heard the noise in the background, it's because the cleaners came today for both my daughter's house next door and mine. And normally they come on Thursday, but it's Thanksgiving. So I, of course, said, "Can you come on Wednesday?" Which probably everybody told them. And so these poor people have been working nonstop at all these extra houses. And so they were here very late. So that's why you might have heard noise in the background. So, but now they have gone and my house looks pretty good. So anyway, it is winter and I just want to show you my feelings about winter because I hate winter. Never been fond of it. And so I got to my art class last week and I'm like, I'm in a bad mood because I woke up and it was dark outside and I just laid in my bed staring out into the darkness, even though it was later in the morning or afternoon. And so this is not a great example of my artwork, but it was just for fun. So this is me, my art the person who runs the art class, she said, "Well, you look dead." And I went, "Well, that's what I felt. So that's why my face is so pale." But anyway, if you look at the time there, it says 1300. If you don't know military time, that's 1 p.m. And that's what I feel like doing in the winter. Just I wake up and I just want to go back to sleep. And sometimes I just waste the whole dang morning on it just because I rather go to sleep and dream of Hawaii. And so yeah, that's me in winter. So usually I like to get away in the winter, go someplace like Hawaii, India, Mexico. But sometimes I haven't made it, especially during like COVID. And so then I get stuck here in the winter and it doesn't make me happy. So any of you who are, this is what, atypical? I hate winter. Oh, good. Somebody like me. No, I love summer. No. I don't have a problem with summer at all. No, I'm sweltering simply because for whatever reason, the air conditioning doesn't get it down to when I'm doing the show to a comfortable level. No, I'm good with summer. I don't mind. Don't mind summer. I'd rather be hot any old day. Don't like dark. I don't like cold and I don't like dark. So, and of course, you're going to ask me about the cat. He's sleeping in my room a lot more like this. However, he is now, because he came up and he freaked out about me holding out some food. He'd been eating out of my hand for like a few days. He'd been licking the stuff off my hand. And all of a sudden he like at me. And when I went like this, now he's afraid of my hand. So now he won't take any food from my hand and will lay there on the floor for like hours waiting for my hand to leave. so he still comes in and eats all the food, but so I don't know whether he'll get nice again to come close enough to my hand, but he will lay on my floor because for some reason he feels safe enough to do that, but doesn't like my hand at all. Be like that animal. Okay, let's go to the news. This one, top request today, is this very bizarre story. And this is Hana Kobayaski. Let me see if I got the name right. Let me, oh, sorry, not the cat again. Let me find my story on Hana. Well, let me read. I want to go to something I just read about this case, and it was over on News Nation, and I disagreed with the FBI profilers who were on there talking about this, and it kind of bugged me, and so I want to. I just found it just a second ago. So but I wanted to use this one as opposed to one I was just going to use. Here we go. Because this is what bothers me about sometimes when people discuss cases, and I just think you're kind of beating around the bush, saying stuff that's very vague without really good explanation. All right, it says here, this is from News Nation. The disappearance of Hana Kobayashi has taken a tragic turn. So she was coming from Hawaii to New York City. So, and this is how the circumstances are. With experts suggesting she may have been snatched. All right. Why are you saying that, experts? You know, what are you doing? What are you saying to support that you say she's been snatched? Now, theoretically, the may word or the could word, people throw that out there basically so they don't have to actually, be right or wrong. They could just say, this could have happened. Well, she could have been grabbed by Martians too, but don't say that unless you've got something to support what you're saying. I don't mind you saying that, but give something to support it. I'll read you the rest of this. You'll see my problem with this. She may have been snatched, and her father dying by suicide during the search. And this is true. So she's been missing. Father, this is her dad, comes out to search for her. And 13 days later, he's dead in Los Angeles, as is she. I'm sorry, she's not dead in Los Angeles. She's missing in Los Angeles. He's dead in Los Angeles. Okay. Let me back up a little. Some of you won't know this story yet. Kobayashi, was last seen on November 11th after missing a connecting flight from Maui to New York. All right, so she was going to New York to spend time with her aunt, and she also supposedly had, I guess got a $2,000 hotel reservation. So there's a lot of missing information in this, by the way, this whole story. She supposedly is an aspiring, I think it was a photographer, but when people say aspiring, I mean, makes me think, are they working? Where are they getting their money from? Because if you're only aspiring, that's not your full-time job. So there's a lot of missing information about her and what Hana was like before she got on the plane. She was supposed to be taking this trip to New York with her boyfriend, and they broke up. But they broke up after they made the flight arrangements. So they decided they were just going to keep the flight. And they left Hawaii at the same time. They landed in Los Angeles, and there was, a lot of downtime before the next connecting flight. He took the next connecting flight. She did not. She vanished at that point. But the whole story is really wacky. All right, so it says here, Dog the bounty hunter, whose daughter knew Kobayashi. Now, Dog the bounty hunter lives in Hawaii. I thought he lived in Oahu, so she's from Maui, so I'm not sure how they knew each other. But anyway, the daughter supposedly knows Hana. Suggested she was potentially snatched. Okay, there again, Dog. Why are you saying that? Just because she's missing doesn't, don't just say stuff to say stuff. And expressed hope she is still alive. Okay, well, we all hope that. You also noted the text messages did not sound like Kobayashi's typical communication style. Now, her friends have said that. She's texted, and her family says they sound weird, and her friends said they sound weird. And he says, all women beware. there are things happening that are unbelievable. Okay, well, so that has nothing to do with this case necessarily, just because, don't just say stuff, okay? Though police have not made any public appeals for assistance, which is interesting, Kofendaffer, that's Jennifer Kofendaffer, she's kind of new on the scene as far as the YouTube goes and Twitter, and she came out during the Karen Reed case, and I thought her speaking on that wasn't, well, I didn't find a problem with it. She noted that Kobayashi was in areas where there's significant video surveillance that they could be reviewing to find her. Well, that's already been proven. She's been seen on video in LA. And so she clearly she didn't take the plane. She left the airport and went into LA. Supposedly with somebody that nobody seems to know who that person is. She's been seen in a mall more than once at events. And if she's been seen in a mall and events, she was not kidnapped. Okay. She was in a location doing things. And at that point, at least at that point, nobody had kidnapped her. She had the ability to say to somebody, anybody, help. And she clearly did not. She was doing things. And she even went back to the airport and looking for a flight, and I guess couldn't get one for whatever reasons. So she was moving around, I believe, of her own free will. And to keep this in mind, and when I say pay attention to evidence, there's evidence she was moving around of her own free will. Okay. Now, all right. So it says here, the search has been complicated by the death of her father, who took his own life after spending 13 days searching for his daughter. Now that's an interesting issue right there. Okay. So let's go back to some of the other issues in this case. The missing father. All right. The Kobayashi family said it's a devastating tragedy. Now the father is dead. All right, Ryan Kobayashi traveled to Los Angeles to help find his daughter. The 30-year-old woman was last heard from on November 11th, 3 days after she didn't board a connecting flight to New York City during a layover. Ryan Kobayashi's body was found on Sunday around 4 a.m., and it has been determined a suicide, although it was blunt force trauma. So I'm trying to figure out how that was a suicide. Only way I can think blunt force trauma would be a suicide. Suppose he was found in like a parking garage, he would have to have jumped and got crushed. That anybody would have done him in seems a little unlikely. So they're saying it's a suicide. And at this point, I have to say, well, I guess that's true. But then you have to ask, why the hell would he commit suicide? All right. So now let's say, okay, I want to point this out, because I'm looking at what might be happening with Hannah and why she's doing what she was doing, because she was not kidnapped out of the airport, and she went back to the airport, and she had things, some of those things were under her own control. So she was not just kidnapped, but could there be something else going on with her? Now listen to what the father says. He said, Hannah loves to travel. She loved photography, art, and music. I wasn't too close with her growing up. We haven't had contact for a while. I'm just trying to make up. I'm trying to get her back. That's my main focus. Okay, we have an issue here. Dad was not very present in her life growing up. I don't know where he was, if he was even in the house with her, or was just a distant father or whatever. But he also said they hadn't had contact in a while. When people say that, and that's your daddy, there's something going on there. And then this guy takes his life after looking for her for 13 days. Does dad have an issue? Does dad have problems? And are those problems some kind of problems that Hannah might also have had? All right. Now, let's see what other information we have about what's been going on. She and her ex-boyfriend had planned a trip to New York when they were still together, according to her sister. Since the tickets couldn't be refunded, they decided to keep their tickets but change seats and travel separately. Okay. The ex-boyfriend, unlike Hannah, boarded a connecting flight to New York City from Los Angeles. All right. The CNN found that there was a photo showed her getting off the flight at Los Angeles airport. The next day, she was spotted at the Taschen bookstore at the Grove, a shopping mall in Los Angeles. She chose not to stay in the airport and get on the next flight. So her boyfriend's in the clear here. She then sent a Venmo payment to two people whose names the family didn't recognize. Now, here it gets kind of interesting. A video was posted on YouTube on November 10th, showing Hannah at the LeBron 22 trial experience. an event held at the Nike store in the same shopping center. A photo of the event was posted on her Instagram account. In the days after the 30-year-old went missing, they received a bunch of suspicious texts from her phone. All right, what kind of text did she say? Now, she said this. She said she didn't feel safe, and someone was trying to steal her identity and her funds. Deep hackers wiped my identity, stole all my funds, and have had me on a mind F since Friday. Okay, when somebody says deep hackers wiped my identity, she's in an airport. She has a phone. She can make a phone call to her family, explain things that are happening. She can contact the police, anything. She didn't do any of that. She left the airport into a city, which I don't know that she knows LA real well, but she's running around doing stuff in LA. So if she's been hacked and they've stolen all her money, what is she doing at the mall at these events? It doesn't really make sense. Another message says, I got tricked pretty much into giving away all my funds for someone I thought I loved. Who is that? Because I thought you were with your boyfriend up until you just broke up. So that's an interesting problem. Did she get catfished? All right. Then let's see. So there was footage of her in the metro train station. She seemed to be in good condition. Now, there was one more thing that came up recently, which I thought was, let me see if I can find it, because this to me kind of may be the thing that really points out what's going on here. Well, let me find it. Because I just saw it, because a lot of information keeps coming in. Where is it? Darn it, no. Now it's gone off of my thing here. Hold on a second. She said, okay, I can't find it right now. Maybe I'll just go Google it and see if I can find it. She said she had a spiritual awakening. Okay. Kobayashi, spiritual awakening. I want to see the whole word thing on this when it came in, spiritual awakening. Okay. All right, here we go. An aunt of the missing photographer, it was also called an aspiring photographer, so I don't know which one is correct. Hana Kobayashi has denounced conspiracy theories surrounding her disappearance. Larry Pigeon suggested that theories contributed to the suicide of Kobayashi's father, Ryan. I don't think so. I think her father has had major issues. Hana Kobayashi had flown there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, let's see. This is where I thought it's really interesting. Since her disappearance, amateur internet sleuths have suggested that she may have been abducted by a cult, that her father may have abducted her, that she was sex trafficked. All nonsense. And the aunt says this, and she's correct. She's not being sex trafficked. She's a 30-year-old woman. She's in LA. Do you know how many girls go to Hollywood at the age of 18 to become a star? Those girls end up in sex work, not 30-year-olds on the way to New York. And they don't need to kidnap people when they got people just needing money. Los Angeles police said, okay, he'd been searching. Oh, they did say here, okay, this is the newest one. He did jump to his death from the airport parking garage. All right, so he jumped off and landed on his head, essentially. All right. But here's the thing. He died of a broken heart. Well, I don't know. I mean, he wasn't in her life. He was distant from her. He gave 13 days. I don't know. I'm saying he's got other problems. All right. Now, there are some strange texts. Now, here's the one. This is the one, the new one, which is interesting to me. All right. Her aunt in New York received a text that read, I just finished a very intense spiritual awakening. Now, the aunt says they probably weren't sent from her. There was somebody else was sending these. She said Kobayashi loved photography and art and had not shown any signs of mental illness. You live in New York. Her dad shows signs of mental illness because he jumped off a parking garage and killed himself. So there's something's going on here. She did not have to get off. She could have come straight to New York. She had a flight. It wasn't like she was stuck someplace. She had a flight. She didn't even need a penny to get on that flight. Now her ex-boyfriend was on the flight. They could have shared an Uber. You know what I mean? even if she had no money for whatever reason, everything disappeared. She had safe routes to do something, but instead she left that flight running around LA. I'm going to say this. Oh, what the heck is that sound? Sorry. Stop. When you go to these sites, they suddenly pop up these videos. I think the spiritual awakening thing did come from her. And I think we are looking at the evidence. And let me look at the evidence. The evidence points to she made decisions that she didn't have to make unless she wanted to make them. She had ways to be safe. She chose not to do those things and is saying a whole bunch of things that make no sense to anybody. And that spiritual awakening thing tells me there's probably something going wrong with her. So I'm going to say the most likely scenario at this point is that she did have some kind of psychosis that caused her to make very strange decisions and do very strange things. I don't know if drugs are involved or there's something else going on, but Auntie's in New York and probably doesn't have a real clear picture of Hannah. Her father kills himself looking for her. She just kind of had a breakup with her boyfriend. Nobody's talking about what came before. So she's not being sex trafficked. That's nonsense. Could at this point somebody have hold of her? Could she have hooked up, been catfished? It's possible by somebody. So, but she went back to the airport. So this is what's interesting to me. She did go back to the airport. So she had the ability to do that. So at what point has she made decisions that have put herself, she may be either a couple things. She may be hiding out someplace, maybe some kind of mental issue where now she's hiding out someplace. Maybe she's depending on somebody that isn't the best person to depend on now that maybe she's got no money. And then also the possibility is when people have some kind of issues going on mentally, they can become very vulnerable and can become victims of somebody who's going to take advantage of them. So she may be in trouble at this point, hooked up with somebody she shouldn't be hooked up with because she is so vulnerable. So I'm going to go with that as a possibility. But sex trafficking is ridiculous. Boyfriend, I can't see it has anything to do with anything. I certainly don't think her father came out to kill her. I mean, it's just nonsense. But I do see that she made some choices, probably due to some kind of mental instability. And it has gotten worse. And either she is wandering about in some kind of state or hiding out someplace, or she indeed has become a victim of something because of her vulnerability. So those are my thoughts. Let me go to your comments on that. Breakup may have triggered an episode. And the question is, did you have issues before? Because if you're not mentally unstable, breakups aren't nice. They're can be very painful. Certainly it can be devastating, but usually if you're relatively secure, mentally secure, you'll suffer through it. It won't be nice, but you'll suffer through it. You'll lean on people you know, but you won't theoretically make unfortunate choices. So my question is, what was she like before she got on the plane? Just because, people like say, oh, she loved photography. Well, people who are schizophrenic can love photography, You love the arts. So what? Maybe she's a very creative person. There's more schizophrenia with creative people. You know what I mean? So, and there's also more drugs used among creative people who were into arts and things like that. So that doesn't, just because you love things doesn't mean that you're safe from having issues, that I always think that's kind of funny. It's like, Pat Brown loves traveling. So Pat Brown loves animals. So how does that make me somehow mentally stable just because I love those things? It doesn't. I mean, so yeah. Not that I know of. Well, there, we have that horrific case, and a lot of people thought I forgot her name now. But I did a show on her, and she stayed at the hotel, and she ended up in the water tank, and people think she was murdered. But if you watch the video of her in the elevator, you can clearly see she's in psychosis. There's no question she's in psychosis. Now, could she become a victim because she's in psychosis and therefore, not thinking correctly? Yes. People who become vulnerable in those situations. But on the other hand, they also do very strange things like commit suicide. And she could have jumped, or become paranoid. They think somebody's after them, and then she goes into the water tank, hiding from somebody, and drowns. I mean, this is the kind of thing that can happen. The other thing about Hannah and these strange things she's sending that people say are not her, it may be. We see signs of paranoia. Is she paranoid because she has a reason to be paranoid? Because sometimes, as I say, if you think everybody's out to get you and they actually are, well, you're not paranoid. You're just rational. So is she paranoid because something really bad is going on in her life with some people? Or is she paranoid because she's delusional? And considering she's also have a spiritual awakening, the spiritual awakening thing bothers me because, she wasn't in a place, malls and going to the things she was seen attending are not places of spiritual awakening. So why is she having a spiritual awakening in the middle of this mall? Yeah, very strange. This is an interesting point, Mary. Weird text from her. No one called to speak to her. Now, we are only getting what the media tells us and what is being put out there. I don't know. I don't know whether they were able to contact her, not able to contact her, tried to contact her, didn't try to contact her. These are the kind of things that, unless you're working with the police, you can ask all the people and you can see what's going on. I don't know. But she clearly didn't call anyone. She's sending texts, mysterious texts. So the family and the friends are trying to say she's not texting. Somebody else is doing the texting. Is that possible? Yes. Is it entirely probable? No. But yeah, Pat Brown loves cats. She's definitely mentally stable. I don't know. There could be one of those cat ladies now. When you get above a certain number, then you have to question the stability. I don't even have a cat. You know that. I have no cat. I just have that visiting animal that uses me. Let's see. Alex says jumping shouldn't cause death by blunt force trauma. Well, it depends how you land. If you land on your head, that's blunt force trauma. It is. No, yeah, that's because it went off the roof. When I heard that myself, I'm like, how the hell do you beat yourself to death? But then I thought parking garage, yeah, you got the levels. What made him jump off? You're still trying to find your daughter. You haven't found out that she's dead. You want to be there for her. Why are you killing yourself? I don't know. Fascinating. No, this is absolutely, she purposely, you're correct, Rainey. She wasn't snatched there. She purposely didn't catch the flight. She made the choice. And she also went back to the airport at another time, trying to get a flight and didn't. But she wasn't snatched there. Now, could it be at this point in time, somebody has control of her abductor? Of course, as I said, if she becomes very, very vulnerable, that can happen. If she was catfished, theoretically, at some point, not at the airport, someplace else, that could happen. Even if she went back to the airport and then left again, it could have happened then. So it's, whether she'll turn up alive or dead is a good question at this point. Well, that's a good statement. I don't understand how other people don't understand what exactly constitutes evidence and why we need evidence. Without evidence, nothing can be proven. It's true. That is true. The problem I have with when people give statements on television, and believe me, this a lot of times on television, people beat around the bush. They don't want to say anything. They don't want to end up being wrong. They don't want to people get angry with them for saying certain things. After I put out that the recent Ramsey, my analysis of the Ramsey documentary series by Netflix, one person came along and said, I loved what you said during the Delphi, your whole Delphi series. I loved all of that, but now I think you're an idiot because you suspect the Ramseys. And I'm unsubscribing. I'm like, okay. But what I try to point out is that when people look at evidence, what they think is evidence, they don't understand what is evidence and what isn't evidence. And sometimes even people or professionals don't want to actually say one thing, be clear about it, because they just want to make it very vague so that they don't get in trouble, either by being wrong or by people getting pissed off at them. So by saying, oh, she could have been trafficked. Well, that's a very vague statement. And what evidence do you have to even support that? You know, and I hear that all the time in so many cases. I think she was probably trafficked. What's the evidence that that happens? That she's a female? Being a female doesn't make you trafficked. Now, being an 18-year-old girl who goes out to Hollywood and can't, you know, trying to make it in the films and can't get any parts and tries to make some money and is having trouble finding work because everybody else is taking those jobs, that girl can get into sex work. You know, if you want to call it trafficked, I hate that word traffic because it's a legal term and people make it sound like people are kidnapping people off the streets. No, they're like, hey, girl, you need to make some money? She's like, yeah, I know. I need a place to stay. I need to make some money. All right. I know where you can stay. I know how you can make some money. Used to just be called prostitution, but we've gotten fancy. But there's a reason then that girl might get involved in sex work. Girl getting off a plane? No, it makes no sense whatsoever. She's 30. Just the same with Sherry Papini. Remember how many people said, oh, Sherry Papini might have been sex trafficked. Get out of here. There's a lot younger girls. I mean, she's a good looking woman for her age, but there's a lot younger girls out there. You can get into sex crimes. And on top of it, she ends up with these, you know, brutalized and having something tattooed on her. Like they're messing up the merchandise and then they're going to try to sell it. It's also nonsense. So if you're a professional, I would say, if you're going to say anything with could or may in it, at least give some support to that with what evidence do you have that says she could have been abducted? Why? Now, I'm saying this now. I will say, you just heard me say, she could have been abducted, not from the plane, but because it seemed like she might be in psychosis. And why do I think she might be in psychosis? I'm using those words too, but I'm going to support them. Because the things she's saying, the paranoia and the spiritual awakening stuff is more a sign of psychosis than anything else if she's sending those texts. And a person who is in psychosis, who somehow has made these choices that are not really conducive to living safely, may become a victim because she's become vulnerable. So at least I'm going to explain the crap, you know. So I just think that's what professionals should do. They should explain, help people understand. If you're going to say something, back it with something. And that is true, as by the way, in profiling. I've seen too many profiles put out there to the police, put out there on the internet from the FBI. You know, he's a white male who lives with his mother. And what? And they'd say no, they show no evidence to support that. So from a crime scene, you know, he's a white guy who lives with his mother. How do you know that? Now, if you have DNA that says he's a white guy, well, that one's fine. How do you know he lives with his mother? You know, what is it that says he lives with his mother? Did he drop a photo? You know, oh, because he's a weirdo? That makes him live with his mother? You know, don't just say stuff. Support it with something, or at least logically explain it. So I'm always bothered by that. And also when people, just regular folks, get upset about things, they say, well, in the JonBenet Ramsey case, I mean, there was a suitcase under the window. Clearly the guy used it to come in and get out of the window. A suitcase does not prove that. First of all, we don't know that the suitcase was moved there for the purposes of anybody going out of the window, because even John Ramsey doesn't seem to know when the suitcase appeared below the window. And he certainly wouldn't, if you're climbing in a window, you probably wouldn't be climbing onto a suitcase. You'd drop. And if you then found a suitcase, I mean, would you really go out that way? There's all kinds of things there. It's just not easy to say, oh, just because there's a suitcase there, it means a guy used it to get out the window. So there was a broken window. Does that mean he went out that window? Where's your proof? You know, and you get mad because I'm saying I don't see that. Because I don't see proof. That's not evidence. There's just, you know, and there's a whole totality of evidence on that whole case. So many things. There's not just one thing. And people jump on the one thing that they think proves something, you know, that clearly that garrote around her neck means her family couldn't have anything to do with it. And they ignore the entire ransom note. They ignore the strange behaviors of the Ramseys, McCanns too, but the Ramseys, they ignore a whole bunch of other evidence. And they point to one thing and say, if you don't you understand that, Pat Brown, boom. But if we want to learn things, and we want to, if we want to learn profiling, if we want to learn how to analyze evidence, got to actually look at the evidence. It's just an important thing. And I say I believe in education, so I like to do that. So this is great. I always ask people, where's your evidence? Good point. And what is the source of your evidence? Which is a great point, because a lot of crap that's supposedly evidence is there's no source for it. I've got a new case, which I will, can it be replicated, consistently verified, all common sense. I have a new case coming out of Wales, where somebody asked me to look at. And it's a case where a person's been exonerated. And what's most fascinating about that case is the defense has said this is why she couldn't have done it. But when I looked at the appeal, the defense never used that argument in the appeal. And I'm like, why not? Is there really evidence of what you're saying? And I've been searching for it, and I'm having a hell of a time finding any evidence. Because now it's all over the media as this is true. Well, I don't see that there's any evidence supporting that being true. And it's very frustrating. So yeah, what's the source? And this is coming out of a podcast, and I'll tell you the show later, but there's a podcast, and in the podcast, they say these things. And I'm like, if you're going to say these things in your podcast, could you at least put you're saying these things are true. Can you at least put a link to the court document, the scientific evidence, that's, whatever, the forensic evidence, that's the examiner that did it. Can I see it in writing? Can I see the autopsy, whatever? Can I see that? But, a lot of times in these podcasts that are very one-sided, they don't bother to actually give you that information, because that would probably don't have it. So they're just going to tell you what is true, and you better believe it. And so it's a problem. Okay, let me go on. Something else here, but that was interesting. Here, this fellow, this one's interesting fellow. This is Ryan Borgwardt. He's the Wisconsin kayaker who vanished. All right, now, two really interesting things about this guy. The Wisconsin kayaker who faked his own death has told investigators how he did it. Oh, that's nice. So he faked his own drowning this summer. Hold on a second. My page is being blocked. Stop doing that. Recently I've noticed something interesting, that there are more and more advertisements on the, I have to redo the page. There are more and more advertisements and videos on the pages these days, and it's very hard sometimes to read this stuff anymore. And it freezes because they keep throwing things out there, and it's really annoying. Okay, I've got to get rid of this crap. Oh, for God's sakes. Now I'm more of it. Investing in America. No, I didn't want that. Okay, finally. All right. A Wisconsin man who faked his own drowning this summer so he could abandon his wife and 3 children has been communicating with authorities daily from Eastern Europe, even telling them how he did it, but is not committed to returning home. He's talking with authorities, and the sheriff showed a video of that he sent the sheriff's office, and they don't know exactly where he is, but he's somewhere in Eastern Europe. He was talking to them, and he explained how he did. He says, "I'm safe and secure, no problem. I hope this works." I guess the video. He has supplied authorities with detail how he faked his death and fled. He traveled 50 miles from his home in Watertown to Green Lake, Wisconsin, where he overturned his kayak, dumped his phone in the lake, and then paddled an inflatable boat to shore. He told authorities he picked the lake because it's the deepest in Wisconsin. After leaving the lake, he rode an electric bike about 70 miles through the night to Madison. From there, he took a bus to Detroit, then boarded a bus to Canada, and got on a plane from there. Man, this guy had this thing planned out. The sheriff says, "The great news is we know he's alive and well." Oh, I'm sorry. That's great news? Why? He's a piece of garbage. It's great news. Oh, he's so thankful he's not dead. Actually, at this point, the bad news is we don't know where he is, and he has not yet decided to return home. Podol suggests Borgwardt could be charged with obstructing the investigation and disappearance, but so far no counts have been filed. The sheriff said authorities keep pulling at his heartstrings to return home. Christmas is coming, Podell said, and what better gift could your kids get than to be there for Christmas? Sheriff, you're a moron. You are an absolute moron. If he cared about his kids, he wouldn't have faked his death and gone off, running off to be with a woman off in Eastern Europe. What kind of he put his kids thought he was dead. He tortured his kids. He tortured his wife. They thought her father had drowned to run away to be with another woman. And you think he cares about his kids? You're a moron. The dude is a psychopath, a cold-blooded psychopath. The only good thing about this is he didn't kill his wife and children. Yay, that's a good thing. I will give him that. At least he didn't kill them. Of course, you know what he could have just done? Just leave a note that says, I'm no good as a father or no good as a husband. I don't want this life. I'm running away. Why not just do that, dude? But supposedly, now theoretically, there's this claim that he took out this insurance policy. So maybe he's trying to leave his wife and kids some money. So when he goes off on his adventure, they'll at least get some cash. Well, that's still a psychopath. Do you think that makes up for the torture you put them through, that they have some money to live on? Okay. Oh, more clues about him. They found he obtained a new passport 3 months before he disappeared, and they speculate he faked his death to meet up with a woman he had been communicating with in Uzbekistan. Okay. That's nice. Now, the other thing, which annoys the hell out of me, along with the stupid sheriff, is whether he can what he can be charged with. See if this one disappeared on me. Okay, hold on a second. Here we go. All right. Now they said, United States Attorney's Office Public Information Officer Kenneth Gale said the department cannot comment, quote, outside of public findings on any specific matter, but revealed there is no specific federal offense for someone faking their death and fleeing the country. All right. He said that a federal offense would depend on the details of a case, such as a person committing mail fraud, okay, for insurance benefits, all right, lying to obtain a fraudulent federal identification or lying to immigration officials, which he did not do, except for the insurance thing. It says here there could be tax implications. It's not clear whether Borgwardt transferred funds to foreign banks, but I assume he had to have some money. Well, we're assuming he's not coming back, but what if he returns in time for tax season and pays his taxes? Yeah, I don't think the dude's coming back. I know people looking at this as such a huge crime, but you can walk off the grid, go live in a cabin, or join a monastery without telling anyone. Technically, it's not a crime, but it's a crime when you fake your death and do everything you could to look like you drowned in a lake. That's their potential obstruction charges. They would seek restitution between $35,000 and $40,000 for the search effort, which lasted 54 days. This is kind of like all this Sherry Papini thing and the runaway bride thing. I think they should be slammed, absolutely slammed, with a long prison sentence. This little slaps on the wrist, like, oh well, I guess you just didn't. I think the runaway bride didn't get anything. I think she got a teddy bear. And Sherry Papini got way under what she should have gotten. I would put him in prison for at least 5 years, if not 10. Okay, the costs don't include all the expenses incurred by volunteers and expert divers. Married with 3 children, Borgwardt, 45, was originally reported missing August 12th when he failed to return from kayaking. Okay, then they had a 54-day search, and they go on about all the things he did to get away with it. But just come home for Christmas, honey. Dumbest crap ever. Oh, he can freeze his ass off in Eastern Europe. I'd have hoped the woman he went over there for turns out to be a piece of work. Probably a piece of work just as bad as him. Scammed by what? Was he catfished? Who gives a crap? He still faked his death to torture his family. I don't care. I don't care if he's catfish. I hope he gets over there and finds a big bear or something. You know what I mean? I don't care. If he got catfished, hallelujah. That's all I can say. Thank you. He's an evil jackass. Yeah. Oh, I do look dead. I can always go back. It's pastel. I'll go to my painting and put some pink in my cheeks, but that's the way I feel here in the winter. I guess it depends where the location you're in, what the state. I don't know. I don't know. I think it's way too limited. I think there's a great difference between walking away, which doesn't prove you're dead. It just proves you left. There are people who walked away. I'm going out to get milk, honey, and don't come back. A cigarette thing. I'm going out to get some cigarettes, and they disappear and get a new family. That's not nice, but it also isn't faking your death. I think there's two different things. Sherry Papini, that's why it made me so sick with her. She faked everything. She didn't just go away. She left her bicycle. She left it looking like she was attacked. So they thought she had been abducted. And even when they found her, she was still, trying, after she reappeared, she's still lying. I think that's disgusting. So her husband and her children, Sherry Papini's husband and children, thought had been abducted, and the chances of her being alive were very slim. So that's sick. That's sick and psychopathic, and should not be getting a slap on the wrist. That stuff is just not acceptable. When you make it a police case, as opposed to just, it's bad enough people disappear and it does become a police case sometimes when they don't do anything fancy. They just simply walk off. But, this is obvious that he faked all of this stuff. Let's see. Completing suicide is illegal here. I wonder about faking your own death. Oh, in Australia. I don't know. I think it just that should be just worse. I'm not sure what that is, but I thought that was interesting. Now I want to go to the other request I had. Where is she? Oh, this thing. Oh, she got. This is Tiffany Lucas. I haven't really followed this case because to me she's just a psycho who killed her two kids, and she's just an appalling piece of work. But she did get convicted. She's been. I think she got 2 life sentences. Good. She needed to get 2 life sentences for sure. The only issue in this case, I'd say, hasn't really overly interested me so much. So let's see. I'm trying to see if there's. It's that night. It's the day before Thanksgiving. Have fine crap. But she killed the 2 kids. Here we go. Kentucky mom claimed she was manipulated into killing her kids through Facebook. First, she said it was an accident, and I looked to try to find out because I'm not watching a trial or anything. I wanted to find out when she said it was an accident, like where the boys lined up, so it was one bullet to their heads, and so it was only one bullet went through both of them and killed both of them. Because if it's 2 shots, it's no accident. I couldn't find that. If you know that, just tell me here. Then she said Facebook made her do it, and she went for an insanity plea. I'm glad she got 2 life sentences. Is all I can say. Finally, somebody doesn't let her off the hook and say, "Oh, she's just a mom who is overstressed or something." Hope they throw away the key. That'll work. Oh, sorry, Sarah. Not feeling good. Sorry. I hate the lady already first from the pic. Well, it's a bad pic. Although I did see another pic where she had all this makeup on and looked fake. So, yeah, she's just, that kind of thing I don't have any sympathy for. As you know, I don't know, mothers killing the children. It's even, in my opinion, a lot worse than the fathers killing the children, just because, that child that was nursed by you, or at least fed by you, generally speaking, women are doing more of the caring, so that child trusts the mother even more than trusting the father, just because of the amount of time. Now, that's not always true. Sometimes fathers are the more trustworthy ones, and the mother is useless. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, when you have a bad situation. But a lot of times, the children have this, this is their mother, and for a mother to then just kill them coldly. It's just hard for me to, I know what it causes it. I mean, to me, it's psychopathy, and I don't go with any other excuse for that. I just think it's a cold-blooded desire to get rid of the kids who are just annoying you. And sometimes that's what men do too. They're just tired of that wife and children, and they kill them, or they fake a kayak accident and run away to be with an Uzbeki woman. Now here's just a couple of things I wanted to point out. What is that picture? Oh, this one. This is a bizarre thing, though. This is Brittany Patterson. She was arrested because her son 10 walked for 1 mile from the family home. And I've heard a couple different stories about this. This is Brittany and her son. Very bizarre story about where she was considered to be. Well, let's see what it says here. She said she let her 10-year-old walk home alone, and then she was cuffed. They came to her door, and they said they were taking her into custody because she, well, for what? The reasoning was this: he was 10 years old, and he now they say I can't figure this too. We got to less than a mile away, half a mile from his home. So he was walking a mile home and got halfway there. Police spotted him and drove him back from town. This is the day before Halloween. Then they arrested her in front of the family. He did not, okay, this is what happened. He did not ask his mom's permission. He left and walked home. Now, I don't know if there's an altercation there. Somebody saw something gone wrong. But she said she would have allowed him to go anyway. She goes, the irony here, too, is that the next day was Halloween, where kids walk often without their parents door to door in the dark and knock on the doors of strangers, which is absolutely true. So you're allowed to let your kids walk all over town and knock on people's doors, who could be pedophiles, but it's not okay to let your 10-year-old walk home in daylight, 1 mile. So that's it. Middle of the day, walking down the street. And they said they said that they will drop charges against her if she agrees to put a GPS tracker on her phone so she can track him. Now, mind you, what's crazy about this is, now I would not let my 10-year-old granddaughter walk a mile. I would not in this day and age because I'm uncomfortable with that. I don't know. Maybe it depends where you live. Maybe it depends what kind of kid you have. Maybe like there's parents who more believe the children should be free and run around. And when I was 10, actually when I was 8, I walked, just like many of us did, walked to school, which was quite a distance. As a matter of fact, one of the schools wasn't a mile away. I walked to school, came home for lunch, went back to school, came home at the end of the day. 4 times a day I walked a mile to school. And my mother let me walk to town. She knew she worked with me to not get hit by cars, know how to cross the road. And I left my house and I walked all the way down the street for a long, long ways. And then I turned right and walked all the way into town. 8 years old. That was the time when you were allowed to do that. And parents weren't worried about you getting kidnapped. They just wanted to make sure you knew how to cross the road. And there were kids all the time who went, you got to be home before the street lights come on. People were those kids 10 years old were bicycling everywhere, walking everywhere in the woods. God knows where they were. And now this one kid, the mother allows him to walk home and she's being arrested for it. Now, unless there's some other story here where she has been massively neglectful of her children, that is absolutely outrageous. And I don't know, did anybody hear of anything that makes this woman deserve to be arrested for letting her kid walk home? I wouldn't do it myself. I'm paranoid these days. That's just me. But some people don't think that way. And I don't know that you should be arrested for that. So I think that's really freaky. So that's just one of the crazy things that I saw. Caitlin says, in the early 80s, we walked to school until the pier vans started showing up a couple more years. Until the pier vans, what are those? I don't even know what those are. Per vans. Oh, well, maybe it's just because we know more than we used to know. There were kids who definitely were kidnapped back in the 50s and 60s. Obviously, we look back at, that happened. It wasn't like there weren't perverts and child predators out there back many years ago, but we just didn't hear about it because we didn't have the media, and because we didn't have the media, we didn't know. We didn't have 24-hour a day cable. We didn't have shows like mine. We didn't have Nancy Grace. Didn't have any of that crap. And we didn't have the internet, so all you had was a local newspaper. And if it didn't happen in your town right away, you never heard about anything bad in the last 20 years. So you can let your kids run free. But I don't know how somebody gets arrested for that. That's just insane. I want to look at a couple other situations where I think the concepts are so off. Now this concept, and this case now, this is a Liam Payne case of One Direction, another balcony issue. Somebody said he went off the balcony in One Direction. That was a terrible joke. Jesus, but it made me laugh. Okay, anyway. So new details emerge how Liam Payne spent his final hours at the Casa Sur Palermo Hotel in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Now they have these and they have this CCTV footage appears to show him being carried by three men believed to be hotel employees back to his third floor room minutes before his death. He was under the influence of drugs and alcohol, according to his autopsy, and allegedly had caused multiple disturbances in the lobby in the days leading up to his death. However, he appears to be conscious in the video as he holds his head upright when he's being carried back to his hotel room. And then the police report says he may have been trying to escape his room via the balcony. Okay. No one was chasing him. He could have gone out the door, but he chose to try to go off the balcony for whatever reasons. I don't know if he was chasing anything, whether he was trying to escape anything or not, but he was under drugs and alcohol, and a lot of them. He had a bag strapped around his shoulder when his body was recovered that he did not have in the lobby video. A hotel employee also discovered a brown duffel bag on the second floor balcony below his room. There was a note purportedly that said, "For Liam," with pills and a bottle of Jack Daniels. One theory is he dropped the bag down before attempting to escape from the balcony. All right. He didn't want to return to his room. That's what they saw in the video. And he struggled with hotel security. You're like, dude, you can't keep acting like this. He was causing a disturbance because he was under the influence of alcohol and drugs. He should just causing a disturbance. So they brought him back to his room. And they also removed a mirror outside his bedroom, maybe because he was smashing stuff. Sources claim that he did not like being alone in the room, like he often was during his time with One Direction. Okay, well, he's got some issues. While Payne was allegedly on a drug binge in mid-September, his bodyguard was concerned for his well-being and put him in a room while they were staying at a rental house in Florida. Payne allegedly escaped that balcony using a garden hose. So the thing is, he was causing so many problems a lot of times. They were trying to put him in, put him in his room and say, hey, calm down, dude. And so anyway, he fell off the balcony and died. And 3 people were arrested in connection with his death. Some were accused of selling him narcotics. I'm okay with that. If you sell people narcotics, you're a drug dealer. I don't give a crap about you. And then there was this one guy, his friend Roger Norris, who was very close to the singer in recent months, was charged with abandonment as he saw Payne off the wagon an hour before the incident and left him alone. Really? Your friends are now responsible whether you drink or not? You can get arrested for that? It wasn't like they dumped him out of a vehicle in the middle of the desert. Then I'll get you. And that would be abandonment. But good God, just because he goes to his room because he's been drinking, and you leave him in the room alone. You're responsible for that? Okay. I think that's going to fail. Okay, that should fail. So apparently he ordered 4 bottles of whiskey the night before he died. Ordered 4 bottles of whiskey, and at 6 o'clock in the morning, he ordered 5 more bottles. At 9:32 a.m., he asked Norris for 6 grams of cocaine. He asked another employee for 7 grams. At 3:45 p.m., he was visibly drunk with dilated pupils. Norris left at 4:04 p.m., told authorities he believed the singer was fine, didn't seem under influence of anything. And after that, they heard Payne breaking up his room. He got down to the lobby where the guest said he was acting erratically, and that's when security took him up and put him back in his room, and he went off the balcony. All right. The comments are interesting in this case. 391 comments on this site. And what I thought was very interesting about this, and I think this goes to show that we have to stop. I realize that he's with some people, was a favorite singer for some people, and he was a celebrity and all that stuff. But regardless, hold on a second, I'm having issues with this. They're really screwing these sites up, I tell you. I haven't seen this as so bad until recently. It's very hard to get through the sites anymore, especially some of the crappy sites. Anyway, I can't get to the things because sites are crashing. Okay, so let me put it this way. Almost everybody said basically, he was the cause of his own demise. We're done with feeling sorry for all these people who decide to take drugs to that level. Once upon a time, you used to call people junkies. We don't want to call them that anymore because it's mean. But the fact is, by buying the drugs, they're supporting the cartels in Mexico and in South and Central America that are destroying those countries. They are destroying their own lives. They're destroying people around them's lives. And I don't have respect for that. Sorry. I mean, to me, when you're doing drugs, it's horrifying. There are so many people overdosing on God knows how many drugs. People who come from middle-class lives, who even have decent jobs, who are doing cocaine at parties. They're going to parties and snorting a whole freaking load of cocaine. A lot of people dying of that. And my son was telling me about a number of people he knows that have died of cocaine overdoses. And I'm like, Jesus, how do you know all these people? He's like, they're just people I grew up with and stuff like that. And I said, I don't understand it. If I go to a party and cocaine comes out, I'm gone. I don't hang around drug people. If you're doing drugs, I don't want to be around you. You can't come to my house. I don't want to go to your house. I'm not going to be in a party that there's drugs. It's not acceptable. We got to stop saying it's acceptable and feeling sorry constantly. He was out of control, outrageously out of control, partying, not so much as he was just trying to keep up with whatever addiction he supposedly had, but to having that kind of level of bad behavior, breaking the law. You went off the balcony, you went off the balcony. Let that be a warning to other people. Stop doing that stuff. And the people were ruthless in the comments. And I was actually kind of shocked because I'm ruthless, but I usually find other people aren't because they want to feel sorry for people and say, well, they have an addiction, they can't help themselves. But that's not what I saw in the comments. I think people are getting to the point of being fed up. We're fed up with drug people with fentanyl all over the streets. We're fed up with, just a lot of it's just causing so much damage. And it's not mild stuff either. It's not like, here's a comment. Some of the comments are coming up. Being an adult does not mean needing a babysitter to watch you. Correct. He was an adult. People shouldn't have to babysit him. Okay. Where are the rest of them? What happened here? That's so annoying. Okay, let me see if this is going to show up. Yeah, these sites are a mess now. Oh, it says one comment. There's 400 comments. What are they talking about? Something's gone wrong there. Okay, but just drives me nuts. Let me see if this was another one. Oh no, that's a different one. I'm going to talk about that. But I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm done with feeling sorry for people. And once you cross the line to break the law and buy drugs from the cartels to destroy our country and their countries, screw you. That's the way I feel. I'm sorry. I'm just really sorry. I don't have any. Yeah. Now it's up to 100 comments. What the heck? This site is it's really weird. It's just, oh God, they just don't function. Yeah, thank you. Take responsibility. We make choices that have consequences. Don't blame others. And this is what is often happening. Again, I talk about that thick line. There's a thin line. Smoking a little bit of a homegrown weed back in the day. That was a little line. There's things you can do that are small, that aren't clearly breaking even buying homegrown back in when I was, young was breaking the law. Going out there and buying cocaine, heroin, fentanyl. Seriously, stop it. Just it's horrifying. Let's see. I was trying to see if I got any of these other ones. Now, see, this is where I think our problem comes down. It's the DSM-5. The media coverage is educational for those who still think alcoholism/drug abuse is a personal failing. It is not. Yes, it is. No one makes you take drugs or drink alcohol. It is just disorder classified in the DSM-5, which you can read. And the DSM-5, I think, is a pile of garbage, in my opinion. I've never liked the DSM-5. I think they make up a whole bunch of nonsense. Many hope his death will force the entertainment biz to stop exploiting children. I don't even know what person I'm talking about. It is a personal choice. You don't accidentally fall into drugs, unless you don't. I mean, people take drugs, and people don't get addicted the first time. That's just nonsense. This thing where, I did it one time and then I was addicted. No, you did it one time and liked it. So you wanted to do it again. That's it. That's the way it works. And after you keep doing it over and over again, it becomes a habit. Habits are hard to break. That's my habit. Diet Pepsi. I have quit it. And a month goes by and I go, oh, I miss it. I like my Diet Pepsi. I'm not addicted to it. But I want to drink it. Luckily, it's just Diet Pepsi. But it's like, this person said, don't do drugs. Yeah, don't do drugs. That's the thing. Sad, but he was a druggie. I finally got them all coming in here now. And the drug problem in this country has gone insane. And when I asked my son, he said he could list like 10 people he's known who died of drug overdoses. And I'm like, how is this possible? Because I don't remember any of that when I was growing up. I didn't know one. Like, okay, I take that back. No, she didn't die of a drug overdose. She died of AIDS from using heroin. But she wasn't a close friend. She was somebody I knew, and she had a lot of issues. One person, and my son grew up in a good town with a good family. It wasn't So I'm like, how are and he was pointing out the people that have the problem. He's talking about people with money, and cocaine seems to be a big problem when people have too much money. And fentanyl. These people, they say they're not homeless on the street. These are people who have jobs, and then they end up dead. It's just a Dr. Pepper. Jeez, just pisses me off. It just makes me very, very angry. Anybody who does drugs encourages other people to do drugs. If you share your drugs, you encourage other people to do drugs. You sell drugs. I'm big on. You sell drugs. I want to put your butt in prison for a long time. All the people are let now to drug dealers. You got to be kidding me. Just because it's so overwhelming. It's so much. I mean, it's not like, again, you just, I didn't know that guy. And the guy is really a mess. And I saw him down on the corner. No, these are people that should have decent lives and did have decent lives until they decided to do drugs. Yeah. So I want to talk about her. This is a new book that came out. This is April Blasio, and she has a book called Raised by a Serial Killer, which I think is actually kind of an interesting book. And her father was Edwards. He's a pretty busy serial killer, and he was a family man. Look at him with his wife and the 3 kitties. And they traveled a lot over the United States when he off people, and he would move from town to town. She said, I thought we were moving away from bad people. And then she says, maybe it was we were moving away from good people. But this guy, I will do a show on him at some point because he got away with this for a really long time. And he's quite famous. For a long time, people didn't know who he was. I'll tell you why people now know who he is, and it's because of this ludicrous person out in the media. He's a serial killer and former fugitive. He has murdered at least 5 people between 1977 and 1996 and suspected of several other killings. He also robbed gas stations, Worked as a handyman, one of the top jobs for serial killers. And let's see. Okay, he actually appeared on television shows, To Tell the Truth and What's My Line. And he wrote an autobiography. Obviously, had grandiose thinking. He wrote this in 1972. He wrote a book called Metamorphosis of a Criminal, The True Life Story of Ed Edwards. And then in 1982, he returned to crime and was imprisoned for 2 years for arson. And then from 1974 to 2009, he was not incarcerated. And he lived in more than a dozen states using false names, according to his daughter, April. And then he finally, let's see. His whole story is really fascinating. I'm not going to get into it all here, but he killed couples. One was called oh gosh, he did all kinds of crap. He was just very busy. And just shot people, shot couples, honeymoon, or what's called Sweetheart. I forgot what this one's called. There was a name for that one. I can't find it here. But anyway, he finally got convicted. Okay. And he also confessed to killing his foster son. He's a nice guy, I tell you. Anyway, he died of natural causes, avoiding the lethal injection. It was planned for him. Now, this is where I have to do a whole show on this, but she just came out with a book. I just want to let you know about her book in case you want to read it. Does sound kind of interesting. She actually talked to the police and tipped the police off. So I don't know how much of that, what she did and when, but interesting. Oh yeah, he did the Sweetheart murders too. That was the one where he killed a couple. Okay, let's see. Now, this is where this jackass, John Cameron, retired homicide detective, and it's embarrassing because he's a retired homicide detective, speculated Edwards was responsible for several high-profile cases, including the Zodiac murders in California and the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. Get out of here, dude. I mean, his claims have proven highly controversial because they're nonsense. But here's what's really disgusting. He published a true crime book, It's Me, Edward Wayne Edwards, the serial killer you never heard of. Then in 2014, claiming that along with other murders, let's see what other murder, okay, Edwards hadn't confessed to. He said that Edwards was a Zodiac killer. The book and Cameron's claims were met with almost universal disdain, especially from law enforcement. Yes, and from people like me. Yes, you're an idiot. And I don't know, you're just one of these people that wants to make money off of nonsense. Here is where the problem comes in. The old media rolls in. In 2017, A&E broadcast a Cold Case Files episode describing the murders of Tim Hack and Kelly Drew. Oh, I'm sorry, that one's okay. That was about the couple that was killed. In 2018, here's where we get the problem. There was an investigation discovery called My Father, the Serial Killer. Okay, this is okay so far. And that's about the daughter and what had happened. However, she did say that he made them watch videos about the Zodiac killer while screaming, "That's not how it happened." She thought her father was a Zodiac killer. That's okay. You're not a homicide detective. I'm going to read your book and see why, that does seem interesting, but that he's a Zodiac is probably not likely. However, let's see what Cameron says. Okay, so here's the one I think is ridiculous. A&E in 2018 aired a 6-part series. It Was Him, The Many Murders of Ed Edwards. So now, let's see. Cameron's efforts to reach out to Kathleen Zellner, attorney for Stephen Avery, are unsuccessful. But he thought that Edwards also murdered Teresa Halbach, of course. And let's see what else. And also Black Dahlia. And what else? Anything else? So Zodiac, Black Dahlia, Teresa Halbach, and JonBenet Ramsey. And he was featured in a 2019 true crime podcast called The Clearing. Isn't that nice? So in other words, this idiot, he keeps making ridiculous claims. And just because he's a retired homicide detective, they're putting him on these shows. That's where they don't do any vetting to see whether this person has any right to be on these shows. But it makes a good show, I guess. So I'm going to do a whole thing on Edward, this old guy. Another Wayne. This is true. Wayne is a very popular middle name for serial killers. So true. Oh, that's an interesting one. The poor kids in Laos. Laos, yeah. People responsible. These are 6 backpackers, young girls, drank some alcohol at the hospital they were in, and they all died of methanol poisoning. Horrible. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen with that, but yeah. But yeah, so this is just wanted to point that out about the book so that you might want to check it out because I think that's kind of interesting. And I have a couple more things I want to talk about, which is one is Menendez and his new girlfriend. Yeah, here she is. Here she is with her parents. Her parents are 78 and 57, and she's in her 20s. Yeah, and now she's with Lyle Menendez. And remember, he's married, but you know, he already cheated on his first wife, and then he got the second wife, who's a lawyer, and she stayed with him for like God knows how many years, like 20, although she wasn't really with him, and fighting for him. And then now he cheated on her and had his another romance going. So she's 35 years younger. She's from he's 56 years old, and her name is Millie Buxey, and she's 21. He is even told he wants to divorce his devoted wife, whom he married in 2003. Lyle adores Millie. Oh, yes, that's so sweet. And she refers to him as her boyfriend, even though he's married. Now, his wife, Rebecca Sneed, who has been with him all these years and is a fool, now says that, trying to say, oh, we were actually separated at the time, so it's not like he was cheating on me. Okay, sure. But anyway, you wonder how this guy's not a serial killer, but you wonder how killers get all this kind of romantic stuff going on in prison. Now, I told you, they can go on all these websites, send letters, and women can contact them, and they spend a lot of their time manipulating people and women who are thrilled to be hooked up with somebody, you know, it's notorious. And so she came over from the UK to visit with him. She's from Manchester, and so she went to visit him, and that's where they got the cute little photo of them. You know, they're allowed to take these photos in prison. Isn't that sweet? And so she's now hooked up with him, and yeah. Oh, Lord Almighty. So I just want to bring that up. It's so ridiculous. Okay, I got a couple more things. I will have to talk about this one's really important. And Meredith Kercher, who was murdered in Italy. And here's Rudy, who got finally convicted of it. I think he's out and about now. Amanda Knox, who got off of the crime. And of course, her boyfriend also, I can't pronounce his name, Raffaele, also got off of the crime. And she's only been found guilty of getting the guy that worked at her boss at the bar. You know, she lied about him being at the scene and being the killer. And then she didn't have to do any more time because she'd already been in prison. So she's free, but she will not stop. And I find what she's doing absolutely despicable. And this is why I say, people think Amanda Knox is just a nice person who got caught up in something. I will still say she was involved in that crime in some way. We have to watch my videos on that. I do not believe I can't prove that she was in the room at the time, and it seemed like such a small room, and it would be different kinds of evidence. But there's enough evidence to say Rudy was not there alone, at least at some points, whether before, during, or after, that things were not something that he could have done himself. And with her lies that she told, she was involved in that crime. That is my belief. Now, here's what is happening now. They're going to make another documentary. Yes, they are. So, and this to me is just absolutely despicable. So Meredith's sister is really pissed off. Amanda Knox Project starts filming in Italy. 8-part series, 8-part. Meredith Kercher will always be remembered for her own fight for life the sister of the murdered British student, has said, as filming began in Italy on a controversial TV series co-produced by Amanda Knox about the case. Filming of the 8-episode series Blue Moon has coincided with the 17th anniversary of the murder, for which Knox was twice convicted before being definitively acquitted in 2015. The series is also being co-produced by Monica Lewinsky, who was at the center of the 1990s media storm with the Bill Clinton thing. Okay, so anyway, it's going to be shot in Umbrian hilltop town of Orvieto this week before moving to Perugia, and more being filmed there. Kercher said her family has been through a lot and finds it difficult to understand how the series serves any purpose. Yeah, it serves purpose. Amanda Knox will make money. That's the purpose for Amanda Knox anyway. And everybody related with it will make money. And people will watch it because it's about Amanda Knox, not about Meredith Kercher. It's all about Amanda Knox and how unfair everything was to her. So kind of like John Ramsey. You hardly see a show really doing an unbiased thing about the case. What you see is John Ramsey, poor John Ramsey, poor Ramsey is John Ramsey. So it's a one-sided thing. And this is what this is going to be. It's going to be one-sided, isn't it? Amanda Knox is in charge of this. Do you think there's going to be anything that isn't pro Amanda Knox in here? Of course not. Unbelievable. And so they're going to go to this town and put them through all this crap again by filming there. And it's pretty disgusting. But it's all going to be Amanda Knox is a victim. It doesn't matter. She lied and put her boss in prison claiming he killed Meredith. So she says, oh, I was forced into it. No, she wasn't. It's just, she's not a nice person. Who knows which one it's going to be? Oxygen does a lot of crappy stuff. Netflix does. Peacock. They're all the same. You understand? They're all the same. And some of them are even probably connected through their parent company. They're there to make money. They do things that make money. And once in a while, you'll get an honorable documentary maker who actually does good stuff. But one of the reasons I refuse to do documentaries anymore, for the most part, I did one recently. It was a serial killer documentary on a number of different serial killers and their behaviors. I know I'm being brought as a professional, and they actually have been one of the few documentary people who were decent. I asked for money up front because I don't trust most of them to pay you. Most of them won't even pay you anyway. They don't even want to pay anybody who's in their documentaries and want you to work for free. But no, I get paid up front. But I get paid and I get paid up front. You don't pay me up front. I want the money wired into my bank account. I won't do it otherwise because it's very hard to get the money once you've done the show. A lot of them will stiff you and you can't afford to sue them, especially if they're not from this country. But even if they are, hard to sue. And so I did that because they brought me on as a professional to talk about things and everything's going to be fine. But when it comes down to a case that specifically, let's say they brought me on to talk about the Ramsey case or the McKay case or the Meredith Kercher there. So they bring me on because they want me to set me up. It's like, okay, let's bring Pat Brown in. We'll make her look like an idiot. Let's say this Amanda Knox is running this show, and I don't even know Amanda Knox is doing it. Let's say they say, just call me and say, we want you to be in this documentary. And they come to my town or whatever, or I go there someplace, and I sit there and they ask me questions and I answer them. They say, Pat, what do you think about the crime scene? What do you think about the statements were made? I answer all those things. I support them with evidence. But when the show comes out, I've been edited. Sometimes I've had questions substituted for the answer I gave, but this wasn't the question they asked, but it makes me look moronic. And then they bring in people to trash me. So I don't do those shows anymore because unless I have absolute proof that I'm going to be treated as a professional, I'm allowed to speak properly, and what I say is going to be in the show, I won't even do the shows. Even if it's something that, I think it may be something in favor of what I believe. I don't trust them, so that's the way it works. It's just annoying. Let's see. But so that's them. They're not thrilled about that, I can tell you. Let me see. I got a couple things. Let's see. Let me look at my list here. Let's see. Just got to mention, I don't know if I mentioned this one the other day or not, but I just think it's such an interesting case of, again, people cause their own problems. This is Martha McKay, a very bizarre crime in that she was killed by the guy who killed her mother. And that was but 20 years apart. And that is so bizarre. I mean, and you wonder, how is this even possible? How could you get killed by someone who killed your mother 20 years ago? Well, I'll tell you as soon as I find it. Where is it? Hold on a second. Well, there we go. And this is a case of foolishness. Again, we have to take responsibility for some things. And some people just, all right. This is a killer that struck twice in 23 years apart, murdering a mother and a daughter. Now, what happened? She was known as Lady of the Lake. She loved playing hostess at Snowden House, the grand 1919 family estate on Horseshoe Lake, Arkansas, that she restored and reopened as an upscale bed and breakfast more than a decade ago. After living on the West Coast, Martha, 63, this is Martha, 63, returned to the land of her influential family had owned for generations. All right, she loved the house, okay. Parties, reunions, and weddings were held there, and everything was just lovely. Although the place was haunted by the 1996 murders of Martha's mother, Sally Snowden McKay, and cousin Joseph Lee Baker on the property. So now her mother got killed and the cousin got killed. When the two were fatally shot inside Sally's home, Martha was devastated like we all were. In years to come, everyone thought they'd left the darkness behind them until the morning of March 25, 2020, when her bloody body was found wrapped in blankets at the top of the stairs. This is Martha now. The woman known as for a larger-than-life presence and good heart had been stabbed and bludgeoned by an intruder. And then while being chased by police, a man jumped out of the window and into his car. But when the vehicle got stuck on the property, he scurried out of the side door and jumped into a frigid lake and drowned. Well, at least that took care of him. When they pulled the man's body out of the lake, they were shocked to realize it was Travis Lewis, the 39-year-old man who'd gone to prison at age 17 after pleading guilty for killing Martha's mother and the cousin. So he had cocaine when he killed, when they did the autopsy on this guy. He had cocaine, methamphetamine, and marijuana in his system, okay? Now, how did he end up on that property, you ask? So he also, there was a cloth bag at the top of the stairs containing several valuables and a bloody kitchen knife. So he was stealing stuff again, which is why he killed the people 23 years ago, because he's a burglar. However, it was not determined whether his intentions were to burglarize her home and she was killed in the process, or if his intention was to kill her and then steal the items. Well, either way. As a longtime Buddhist, Martha believed in forgiveness. You can forgive. You don't have to be stupid. Okay? And she had reached out to Lewis in prison. Oh, I want to forgive you for killing my mother and my cousin. So I'm going to reach out to you in prison. Her support continued when he was released on parole. Why? What about this guy you thought was necessary to connect yourself with him? Released on parole in 2018, and she quietly gave him a job working on the property alongside his mother, Gladys, who had been a housekeeper for years at the Snowden house. So I guess, I don't know if Gladys was working there when he killed the first time, but the arrangement seemed to work until the day Gladys told Martha, just stay away from Travis. He's going back to his old ways. Well, because he's a psychopath. And he murdered 2 people. You don't put a person who's stabbed 2 people to death or shot them to death, bring them onto your property and let them have free reign of your, are you out of your mind? I don't care if you're Buddhist. That's just stupid. Before her death, she had severed her ties with Lewis. It wasn't until after Martha's death the family learned a secret from her diary. Before Martha's murder, Hutton says her sister sold a chandelier for $10,000 cash, stashing the money away in Snowden house. Travis was at the house the day she came home with the money, which then vanished, noting that Martha quickly fired him. Hutton still has many questions, but one thing's for certain, Martha didn't deserve to be killed. She didn't deserve anything that happened to her, except she was stupid. If you put yourself in a dangerous situation for no good reason, you don't know anything about this guy. He's been in prison all these years. You don't know anything about him. and you murdered 2 people. That's right there. You should not want him near you. And he murdered your mother. And I have respect for your mother. I don't think you need to forgive him in that way. You can say, I know there's something wrong with you, so I forgive. I never like the word forgive for that kind of thing. I think you forgive somebody who's willing to change their life, and then you forgive them for, they've changed what they've done. They made amends. Then you forgive them. I'm good with that. Otherwise, you just accept that they're what they are and leave it to God, But she decided she's going to help the guy. Goes out of her way. There's, how many guys in prison she could have helped that weren't double murderers? There's other people out there. They deserve. What about just some poor people in town? There's some people in town who would give anything for that job, and they hadn't murdered anybody. But instead, you bring this murder into your house, and then you stupidly, I have to say again, stupidly, you bring $10,000 worth of cash in the house. You put this guy in a position where he was already a burglar and a thief, and then you bring stuff around him. Hey, look at what this is. And then you wonder why you get killed. You may not have deserved it, but you sure set yourself up. Don't be stupid, people. Please. It's just sad. It's sad. It's sad when people do stuff like that. It's just, yeah. Let's see. One other. Somebody asked me to talk about this, so I want to mention this one. This is just a really old case in England, and I think it was in England. Let me find it. Yeah, here she is. Somerset. Louisa Dunne was raped and murdered in 1967, and they just arrested a 92-year-old man. Wow. And they say his trial is going to be next year. Well, let's see if he's around, but it seems unlikely he's going to be. I mean, what are the chances he's not? He's not even going to be alive for that. They obviously a DNA thing, as I said. Most of these things are solved. That kind of thing is solved by DNA. She was 75-year-old at the time that she was raped and strangled. She was living alone, a widow, and this guy was in his early 30s. And I don't know why he was not found to be the guy way back when, why he was. I don't know if he was. There's no information yet on whether he was a top suspect or not. All it says now is that in 2023, the case was reviewed, which included an examination of forensic evidence. In November 2024, a 92-year-old man from Ipswich was arrested on suspicion of murder. He was linked to the crime scene by DNA evidence. And so that's that. Charges have been brought. And that's it. But when you have a guy who rapes and murders, you have a serial killer. What the hell has he been doing for the last 60 years? That's what I would like to know. And when you don't solve a crime when it happens, and you say, oh, it's so great, we finally solved that crime. No, you left a killer out there for 60 years. How many more people did he harm? Did he rape other women? Did he rape and murder other women? Did he commit other crimes? He shouldn't have been out there. Now, I don't, maybe they couldn't prove it was him, so they couldn't arrest him. But I never am all that thrilled when I see that, oh, the case has been solved 60 years later. I'm like, whatever, it's like a little too late. So now we know who did it, but that's not providing public safety, and it's not really justice. It's just, something, just sort of something. So I thought that was interesting. Things that are solved years later. I'll do this last one just because it's this was a case of a couple. This couple, Sonia Rincon. Oh no, sorry. This is Catherine Romer and her husband. 44 years ago, they're quite wealthy. They went down to Florida, and they were coming back from Florida to their home, wherever they lived. I have to find it. And they vanished, and 44 years have gone by, and they never knew what happened to them. And they just discovered they had no idea what happened to them. And so they came from, let's see where they came from. They were coming, a wealthy New York couple, and they were missing for more than 4 decades. They were found in a South Georgia pond. And the car was found, and there's one piece, a body part. And it's theoretically possible that she had a lot of jewelry, that somebody could have attacked them and then put them in the car and pushed the car in the pond. Maybe that's true. Or maybe what is often true, they just lost control of the car and went to a pond. But sometimes when you have these missing vehicles and people say, oh my God, it had to be some real fancy kind of abduction scheme and all that. It sometimes isn't. It's just that people drive into ponds and you just don't find them. Ponds, lakes, whatever. It's amazing how often that happens. So this is one of these proofs. It took 44 years to find it. It was sonar that found it. And I'm not sure why they're at the pond. Hold on a second. See, here we go again. There's so many ads now. It's just driving me crazy. Something new that's happening. It's just gotten out of hand. So it's hard to load the websites because the ads slow everything down. Let's see. I just want to see why they. Oh, I don't know that they plan to do it. See, now it's more ads coming in. It's crazy. This is the first week I've experienced this many interferences with actually reading the stories. I don't know what's going on. I'll have to investigate that. That'll be a new one. The poor kids. Yeah. Yeah, it's, oh, what am I doing? I did the poor kids in Laos. Yeah. I just went over to look at what it was like there and what the Lao people were like, and what the country is like. And look, I did a whole little thing on YouTube. A very beautiful place. But the problem with methanol in a lot of cheaply made liquor, India's had that problem as well, where all of a sudden a whole bunch of people die from cheap crap liquor that somebody made somewhere. And it's really dangerous. So in certain places, you got to be really careful what you drink, that it does, that it's, sometimes it's just good to stick with beer, well-known named beer, that you pretty much came from a factory that is appropriate. But then again, this doesn't happen very often, but when it happens to you, it's, it's final. So we've had some interesting issues, and I think Dominican Republic also had an issue of people dying from alcohol. Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes, that one. Yeah, that's the latest one that has just gone up. And if you aren't familiar with this series that I'm doing, where I thought I put a picture of it. I just tell you, when you have people in your house cleaning your house while you're trying to work, it's not easy. Where's my picture? Oh, here it is. This is my new Dear Profiler. This is the one. Dear Profiler Pat, should I work to connect with my distant parent, sibling, or child? This is a question asked to me. It's a new Dear Profiler Pat one. I just, I got the Dear Profiler Pat email in, and it was a great question. And one of the things that's fun about when people, this is the new channel. I'll link it below. And it's just an advice channel, and it's from my experiences. But what I find is when people ask one question, it often pertains to all of us. I think it's always a broader thing than the question actually is. Sometimes I see with like Dear Abby and so on, who I think usually the new Dear Abby, I think gives some pretty terrible advice, but I see a lot of these Dear this person and Dear that person, and usually they're fairly short, just, hey, yeah, do this. And it seems to be just focused on that one question for that one person. But I find that these things actually affect all of us in some way. So when I do my videos, I like to broaden it to say, okay, this person has asked this question, but don't we all deal with maybe a person that has become estranged from us, and we're having issues, and we're like, do I just let them go? Do I try to get the relationship back? Do I take, if they're being a pain in the ass, should I continue to allow the abuse? Should I block them? What do I do with these people? And it can be a relative, it could be a friend. And we all run into that at some point in our lives. If not, sometimes we run into a lot of it. Some people are like, man, I got a whole bunch of really questionable people around me. And what do I do about it? So most of the questions that come in, I find actually are broader than just the question, and it affects all of our lives in some way, not the question. So that's oh, well, thank you. I'm glad. It's a, I like doing them because because people have asked me a lot of these questions before I even thought of doing it, and then I just started doing it on this regular channel here, and then people said, why don't you have a separate channel? I'm like, I guess I could, and I find it interesting I like to help people, but I also find it interesting for myself because I have to ruminate over what is the issue here? What should we do about these things? Because, and sometimes there's not always a great, not always a, well, not a great answer, but not always a happy answer for everything. And sometimes you have to accept reality, and those things can be frustrating. I just did that. I put that one up on ageism, and I'm of the age where ageism is a huge issue for me in many ways. And I only talked about certain ways of ageism through, different age groups. Actually, you can have ageism problems when you're 40. You can have ageism problems when you're 70. But ageism, and it's not just work that's an issue. Ageism can happen just the way people treat you. So, and I'm at that age where ageism becomes a huge problem, and it's very frustrating. Just the way people treat you because you're a certain age, and it brings a whole bunch of difficulties to life, actually. And it's you got to figure out what the hell do you do about it. It's not so easy. But don't major in English lit. That's true. I have to say, my daughter went into police work early on, and now she's 40. How old is she? 43, and she can retire this year with a pension. And she's 43, and she'll probably, she's clearly going to either stay on or she's going to go do something else, because she's very highly skilled, because she's been a homicide detective and sex crimes detective and child abuse detective and all that kind of stuff. But she just skipped college and went straight on to the police force, and she didn't have a student loan, and she didn't have trouble getting work. But so many people, you go to school and you think, oh, I love English. I love reading. I know all this. I want to get this English lit degree, or I want to go through I had a liberal arts degree. That was useless as hell. So you go into these things and you can't find work after that, but you have a huge student loan, Sometimes it's like, man, I should have gone into some technical field, I should become a plumber. I might have bought a house by now instead of living in an apartment paying off a student loan. Well, it's pretty good, except it is a dangerous job. So, you got that. Oh, look, the dogs have finally been let out. You hear the barking? They say it's time to wrap up. Yeah. So I want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving, who are celebrating Thanksgiving. And I'm going to enjoy it tomorrow with my family, because they're right next door and everybody will be there. It's pretty cool. My family will be together, which is nice. So lots of laugh. Oh, is he really? Gus is a plumber. Hey, you see, not a bad choice, So, yeah, it's a difficult work. It's a really difficult right now. Work is getting a job these days is horrendous. The whole thing about going through computers, you send that stuff in and they knock you out without you even talking to anybody, and they look for specific things to just eliminate you. And it's a horrible way to deal with anything. But if you're a certain age, I was talking to my son how the ageism thing, and he's 40 and he's looking for work right now at the moment, because he's got an economics degree, but he had COVID and long COVID, and he also hurt his back, so he had to leave his field and go into a different field. And he went out to one job, and he said it was funny. He walked in, there was one of these panels, he said, and the panel had like 6 people sitting there. He said 5 people. So 2 were in their 60s, 1 was in their 40s, and 3 were in their 20s. They were there, and he came in, he asked us these questions, and he said he noticed the only one that paid attention to him was the 40-year-old. The 60-year-olds are going, I don't really want to hire a 40-year-old. The 20-year-olds are going, dude's too old, man. So he said, when I walked out of the office, and this is this son here. So I walked out of the office, he said, there was this young black man sitting there, and he had a nice suit on, he had a nice little tie, and he was in his 20s, and he just walked over and said, congratulations, and walked away. Because he knew that's who they were going to hire. And it's very frustrating, because he's a smart dude, but it's tough. It's brutal out there. Yeah, that's it. That brutal is the word. It's brutal to get a job these days. Very, very difficult. Oof. But yes, we should be a little more thankful that at least we're here and we have each other. So happy Thanksgiving, everybody. And I will see you on Sunday for the Sunday show, whatever it may be. And have a good day tomorrow. If you happen to be alone, call a friend. Call a friend, and because there's always one of them alone too. So somebody will want to. You know what you can do? Just one thought before I go. If you have no one to spend Thanksgiving with, I do this with a friend of mine who, he lives 3 hours away. We do virtual dinners now. And so we just sit there. I have the computer here like this. And like you see me now, he has his there. And we both make whatever we want for dinner. And we sit down with our glasses of wine and we enjoy dinner. We drink wine. It's, we're basically having dinner together, even though we're not at the same exact table. And then sometimes after dinner, we go off to our relaxing place. And I say, I got to take you into the bedroom now. And then I bring him into the bedroom and he finds a nice couch. Sometimes we've talked into midnight and we aren't even in the same area. So, but we had dinner together. So, you can do that. Have a friend, another person who's home alone, just have a virtual dinner date with them. And it's kind of neat. It's one of those things that I will recommend on Profiler Pat. You send your oops, that's a different thing. My mom and I send pictures of our meal. Well, that's not exactly hanging out together. Look what I ate, better than yours. Oh, this is cool. Thomas is in his first sociology class now. Yay. Term 1, all on deviance and crime. He's going to love it. Such a young guy to deal with deviance, I tell you. Yeah, it's quite amazing. I do the same thing with I've done the virtual walks on my on the treadmill, and you put the virtual walk up and you're walking down the street because somebody's got that camera on their shoulder, and so you're walking through India, you're walking through Norway, Oslo, whatever place you want to walk through, and you have the other person click at the same time on their whatever they're watching on, and you say 1, 2, 3, go, and you click on the same thing on YouTube, and you walk together and you look at the things on the side of the street and you chat about the people that you see and the scenery. And after 30 minutes, an hour, or whatever, you go, well, it was great walking with you, and we enjoyed this wherever. And then we just turn it off, and we're back home, and we didn't have to pay for a plane ticket. And we got to go overseas and walk through some country together. It's cool. So that's cool. Some things are really cool on the internet, so that's fun. Anyway, okay, I mean to go away now. Bye, everybody. See you next time.